This is not CGI. This is not an animation. This is a real-life fighting robot called Rambot. Today is the first time in history that we have a real MMA fighter actually controlling the robot. And LaRocco, you're making history today. Dude, thank you so much. This is a fucking cool opportunity. You're making fighting robots. A lot of people would refer to you as the CEO, but I think you refer to yourself as a CFO.
Yeah, that's correct. The Chief Fighting Officer. So yeah, our name is Rek, and our goal is to literally make Real Steel the movie in real life.
It's so crazy. So you brought some robots today to see how these things work, and these are the first ever VR fighting robots that exist.
Yeah. So the tech, unfortunately, China is doing pretty well on the robotics. So we commonly use Chinese robots, but America is catching up. But our software is essentially designed to capture exactly how a person moves and apply it to the robot. So effectively what we do is we take video of how a person is moving, we translate that into the robot, and then we use VR to essentially throw those movements.
Okay.
So it's imagine almost like we're insoling the robot with how you move as a player.
That was cool.
It's pretty crazy shit.
So I'm seeing a little bit of the pieces here. So it's going to be a VR headset, and these things, the goal is for them to be actual fight full-on MMA.
Right. Yeah.
So right now we're using controllers for the hands, so that's going to be controlling the striking portion.
Yeah.
Is there another one controlling the kicking portion, or how does that work?
So the first fight is going to be general boxing, but we're going to be adding kicks. We'll be adding much more dynamic movements. Eventually, we'll be adding, what in MMA, we call grappling, right? But that's actually significantly more complex because the robots actually have to use vision. So the crazy thing right now is, you've seen all these robots walking around. The big unique thing that people don't realize is they're actually blind. They're completely blind. So the way that they determine how to walk is these internal sensors called IMUs, which essentially detect if they're falling over.
Okay.
So they're effectively like a blind acrobat.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So all the videos that you see of the robot running around, it's actually using only just that internal balancing, and it's not using any vision at all. The reason for that is vision is very computationally expensive, and cameras on these robots are usually about just like this much. So like you can only get a field of view of about this much. And if that's all that it can see, it won't be able to do any type of like articulate movements.
And so another thing for me I was curious about is like in grappling, for example, there's going to be two primary ways that we can submit somebody, right? And that's going to be with a joint lock because you're hyperextending for damage, or you're creating a chokehold where obviously the person's going to go to sleep. Robots can't really go to sleep. Yeah, so simulating that. And the same thing I was looking at is like, if we look at in grappling, we have a technique called like a kimura, right? Where we're rotating. The tap is from the limitation in the shoulder. But on the robot, the shoulder can just turn around, like 360.
Yeah.
Right. How do you see the grappling, I guess, changing for the robot from a human there?
So the way this is going to evolve is so at the very beginning we're effectively doing boxing.
Yep.
Then we're going to upgrade it to kicking and basically full body movements. The next step after, so the way that we're doing the point system initially is basically by contact in the center of mass.
Okay.
So if it's a hit, we'll register it as a point, and then we'll have rounds. Alternatively, if you knock the robot over, we consider that a TKO.
Ah, so that was what I was going to say. You can't really like punch it till it shuts down, right? Unless it breaks. But you can create a point.
So there's some footage that came out just yesterday online that went very viral. These robots are going to get to the point where you almost can't knock them over. So effectively, they're going to be able to balance themselves nearly instantly in a way that's completely superhuman. So there was a video yesterday where someone kicked it over, and it literally did a matrix move. Like literally as it's falling back, it pops itself back.
I saw that.
Yeah, you saw that.
Yeah.
It's going to get fucking wild where you literally can't knock these things over. It's scary. It's fucking scary. So literally as it's falling back, it's like Matrix pops itself back up. So when that happens, we're basically going to have to kill the other robot. So we're going to have to upgrade to weapons, and we're going to have swords and crazy ass shit to where we're going beyond MMA into straight up gladiator fights. You'll be able to like basically rip the robot's arm off and beat the other robot with the arm, and then it's going to be trying to balance itself. It's going to get absolutely fucking insane.
last week I was in Rome at the Colosseum, and it was really cool to see like some of the historical stuff of like what kind of events they actually made the gladiators do. Like they're like, we're gonna make them fight tigers and stuff, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, we're gonna have like tiger robots maybe in the future. Like what kind of stuff? There's gonna be flamethrowers. There's gonna be chainsaws on their hands,
Right.
swords. Like it's really kind of there's no real limit. I guess what you could do.
So the reason why humanoids are going to be the ultimate form factor is not necessarily because the human form is the best. It's because we can capture the most amount of data on how a person moves and essentially extrapolate that into the robot. So the reason LLMs became such a big deal is we already had so much data to work with that's pre-existing on the internet. And so the best way to train a robot to be superhuman is to train on human movements and then just basically say, do that, but much faster. So then every single thing that a human can do, a robot can do, but now 10 times faster.
Faster, stronger.
Faster, stronger, whatever. So it's human, but superhuman. So that's going to be the process of turning these things into superhuman humans is going to be taking human data and then effectively saying, okay, robot, do that like a person, but significantly faster.
And so a little bit before you were telling me that this is one of your earlier models of the robot that you have, but
Yeah.
for the event, you actually have potentially the newer version of the robot that can balance a little bit better. It's actually bigger, you said too, right?
So it's about the same size. It's slightly heavier. So the crazy thing, first of all, that's very interesting about this is most humanoids that are kind of heavier have been designed for industrial use cases. But what they realized while they were building these robots for industrial use cases is, wow, these things can like do a bunch of like acrobatic things. This is wild. And they started to realize that there's probably an entire entertainment category for these robots. And so they realized that fighting was going to be a very big part of that. And so a lot of Chinese companies are actually starting to design humanoids explicitly for fighting. So the ones that we're getting that'll be at this event are essentially redesigned explicitly for combat. The issue with these earlier models is these hips overheat after a few minutes.
Okay.
So a lot of people think like what are the real limitations with the humanoid robots? And it's actually them overheating. So it's not battery life. It's not these other things. It's literally the legs overheating. So it's kind of like how when you go to the gym and you go like this and it starts to overheat and you just can't use the muscle.
Yeah.
It's effectively a very similar thing, but in a robot, where the motor starts to overheat and then it basically is kind of like when you reach your maximum rep and it just goes, okay, fuck this, I can't do this anymore. That's literally what happens to the robots. So they had to redesign the waist so effectively it could fight for up to 30 minutes. So now the robots can fight up to 30 minutes. The other big redesign that they had to do is that the wrists would shatter over time. So, you keep doing impact like this over and over again, it's going to break the wrist motor. So those are the two things that they explicitly redesigned. We're talking to other robot companies that have industrial robots that are basically telling us, hey, we can completely redesign the arms to have higher torque. So then we can essentially take like a normal industrial grade humanoid and literally turn it into a fighting robot.
That actually brings me up to my next question I want to say is like, how much power can these actually generate as far as punching power? Like, is this going to be like a hard hit that they can actually do to each other? Is it limited a little bit? Is it more movement based?
So these current ones, I wouldn't say are extremely strong. I would say they're definitely improving. So we have a 6 foot tall one that we work on, but he's just way too dangerous right now.
What do you mean by too dangerous right now?
I mean, he could kill someone. So we have a 6 foot tall version of this. It's an earlier model. It's actually like 6'2" or something. It's 200 pounds. And there was a viral video that a bunch of people have seen in a Chinese research facility where there's two guys working on it, and they ran a dancing command on it without testing it, and it started going like this. And anybody watching this video may have seen this video. It went super viral, and it was basically 200 pounds of torque, and the arms themselves are, like 40 pounds each.
Wow.
It would absolutely kill someone. So we are working with the smaller ones because, we for a few reasons. One is, if we break them, we have to, deal with kind of repairing them and going back to China. But also too, like, we need to ensure this is safe before we upgrade to the big boys that could literally kill people.
So that's why we have the smaller ones, is a little bit more of a safety issue too.
No, it's because So the smaller ones are more agile right now, and there's two reasons for that. Is the smaller ones have more IMUs. I mentioned to that you earlier about that. So the IMUs basically say, "Hey, robot, I'm falling," and then they'll correct themselves, right? So the earlier models only had one thing that would measure whether or not it's falling over, but the newer models have several. They have one in the chest and one in the crotch area. And what that allows is if you're doing these movements like this, right? If you're kind of like, doing a movement like this, the waist and the crotch area are going to potentially be separated when you're doing rotation, right? The big robot only has basically one data point on am I standing or not. So if it's rotating like this, it's like, I don't know where the hell I am, and it's going to fall over. So it's that. And then there's just like, there's a huge amount of heat. Like every single time you increase the robot's weight by like 10 pounds, it increases the complexity of the heat issue by orders of magnitude because it's carrying the weight. It's carrying the weight. Like, my co-founder Nima recently went to China, and they have 6 foot tall robots that they're working on there. And the amount of like energy and the size of the battery is literally the back of the robot for this over 6 foot tall robot that's designed for fighting. The battery cell is like literally almost the entire size of the torso. It's a solid cell battery that you put in there.
30 minutes.
They're trying to do 2 hours. That's become kind of the standard.
Got it.
But it's like, so the 6'2" ones that we have back in our office are like 2 car batteries.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're 15,000 milliamps each.
Oh, I don't understand.
And there's 2 of them. So, I mean, these batteries are so, big that they're actually illegal to bring on a plane.
Oh, because
They're like little bombs, basically.
oh, it's interesting. Right now, we talked about that they're controlled through the VR headset and the controllers, and it's going to make it really fun, obviously, for the event coming up.
Yeah.
Being able to see UFC fighters versus gamers.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's such a cool concept, is seeing a real life fighter.
Yeah.
And seeing how a fighter thinks, but also how does a gamer think? Because a gamer plays fighting games, right?
Yep.
And seeing that, I'm really excited for that coming up. My question in the future events, what are the chances that instead of being controlled by a person, they're actually AI?
So going back to what I mentioned earlier, that most of them are using what's called blind locomotion. So they're just balancing. They look really fancy, but they're effectively like a blind gymnast.
Yeah.
You're people. A lot of companies in the humanoid robot space are being a little disingenuous on how long it's going to take for the AI stuff to be really good. It's going to be like even the demos that Tesla is doing with the Optimus are using VR teleop. So the ones where they like serving you popcorn, it's not AI.
It's not.
No, there's a guy literally, behind the stage wearing a mocap suit with a VR headset. He's basically doing that with popcorn all day.
Wow.
So they're not being fully honest about.
So that whole video where he's like the water bottle handling it back and handing it back.
Yeah,
the reason why the robot could read that was because it's actually someone.
It's clearly a person inside.
Oh, robot. Wow, that's
so. Unless the little bit of dance they do, in media is they won't, if they don't explicitly say that it's AI, it's a person controlling it.
Got it.
100% of this. So in fact, our CTO Amanda was working with these people, and they're like, don't, they don't really want people to know that.
Got it.
Right? They have the robot looking like a person because it actually is a fucking person.
Yeah. So maybe we're a little bit further away from the doomsday where Arnold Schwarzenegger comes in.
I'll be back.
And just destroys the world. AI. We got a little bit longer than we think we do.
Yeah, I mean, so the when it gets, I'm gonna be completely honest. Drones are 10 times more scary than humanoids are in like a military application.
Yeah.
I mean, if you imagine like you could stand outside in a drone with a piece of C4, it could just fly into you and blow you up and kill you instantly, right? Like this thing, if it's running at you, if it's 6 feet tall, it's gonna try to kill you. Like, like I'm hypothetically long term, right? Not like I honestly think drones are significantly more scary from like a military tactical standpoint. I think where humanoids could eventually be valuable in like a defense tech or whatever is I think it's more likely they'll be like RoboCop.
Got it.
Where like, there'll be, a robot who's like, I don't know, a bouncer or some shit. I think that, or like, for example, a cop pull someone over and they don't want to risk walking up to the door because that's where they have the highest, chance of getting shot by someone. They'll take over a humanoid that walks up to the door.
Like SWAT maybe or something.
Yeah, like or like they're doing bomb defusal or something like that. Anything where a humanoid form makes sense. But I think in terms of offensive capabilities, I would already be significantly more scared of drones.
Wow.
So,
And now my next question is this: is right now when we talk about like the gladiator days, right? UFC is kind of taken over where MMA is just this optimal thing where humans just you're drawn to it to watch like the battle. Right?
yeah.
Now this kind of becomes like the ultimate battle, right? When we start thinking of it, is this like you talk about flamethrowers and stuff like that? Do you foresee what we're building here as becoming like the next gladiator for people to watch, the next Colosseum?
Absolutely.
Like, it's the next level down the map.
Absolutely. So we use UFC of robots as the easiest thing for people to understand, but it's actually going to be more like F1 in the sense that there's not only going to be the people controlling the robots and the robots themselves, but it's going to be about like the engineering and how they came to design this robot.
So like Ferrari versus McLaren versus Red Bull,
but with a really cool twist where a person is also controlling the robot. So like you're basically getting the best of both worlds, and then you can have some really crazy shit. Like you could have like a little girl walk up and fight some like huge dude from Arkansas, right? Like in that juxtaposition could never exist in conventional fighting because the dude would just win, right? So we're not only introducing that new form of sport, but we could potentially also introduce type of fights that would never exist. So Elon Musk was threatening Zuckerberg that he was going to beat his ass or whatever. That happened recently. They would actually do this, right? With the robots. They wouldn't actually fight each other. I mean, there's no way two billionaires are going to go at each other like that, right? But I do think they would go through something like this.
My first thought when I think of billionaires and budget,
Yeah.
these are cool. You talked about the 6-foot ones,
Yeah.
bigger. But in the future, we could totally get to like Transformers, Power Rangers, like huge, massive ones. What's the biggest ones that even exist right now?
So the tallest humanoids, so the Atlas robots were the largest ones. They were 350-pound hydraulics. But they're like a $10 million per robot. I think maybe even up to $50 million DARPA project.
Mm-hmm.
The ones from Boston Dynamics that were doing the flips. They're just like completely unscalable, right? So those are the biggest ones. There's also one that was made by NASA.
Meet Valkyrie, NASA's humanoid robot, standing over 6 feet tall and weighing 300 pounds.
And those were using hydraulic systems. So the big difference here is this is not using hydraulics. These are using electric motors. And that's going to bring the cost down. And it's also like the issue with the robots once they get past a certain point is like what I mentioned before is the more weight that you add, the harder and harder it is to actually handle that weight and not have it overheat. So 6 feet is about the current like tech limitation. And the second you grow it past that, it just gets harder and harder and harder and harder. And like, if you really did have one that was, 8, 9 feet tall, 10 feet tall or whatever, I'm not exaggerating. You'd have to have it nuclear powered.
Oh,
and then you'd have to have the actuators with a form of like water cooling because these are going to overheat so fast. I mean, it sounds crazy, but that's literally like out of these mech movies, right? Where they have like the arms are overheating, and they'll give you an alert like right arm overheating. It's literally crazy enough. Actually, what is the problem with scaling these things up? Is the heat and then the amount of energy to handle the robots.
So no Megatron coming up anytime soon.
Well, no Megatron that moves like a person.
Got it.
I mean, you could probably move it to like 7 feet or something. Like people are gonna get wild in this shit, right? But I think once you get past the 7-foot form factor, the energy to like heat dissipation just becomes so incredibly difficult. That if we get things that are like a little bit taller than 6 feet, 6'5", that's already gonna be wild.
Yeah.
Right. Like something that
I think this thing is wild.
Yeah. I mean, this is only 4.5 feet tall, and we're going to have ones that are 6 feet tall very soon.
So right now, there's obviously a lot of cost in it, but it's probably, I'm assuming the goal is maybe a little bit similar to the the original electric cars were pretty expensive to get in, and now
Yeah.
the more popular it's become, the price point becomes more obtainable.
Yeah.
Is that something similar that you're assuming that can happen with the robotics world?
Yeah, so right now we're buying them in-house because, we just have to do it, and we can't like beg other people to like, buy the robots and figure it out for us. But in the not so distant future, once we have distribution and a lot of media attention behind this, the companies will just give us the robots and we'll essentially market them for them.
Got it.
So then effectively the value proposition to the robotic companies is, we are going to market this. We are going to get a bunch of attention. A lot of the Chinese companies are notoriously bad at marketing. They'll pick names that Westerners just like, what are you talking about? And they just don't know how to market it. Like there's a 5'10" robot right now in China called the Robot Era L7. It can jump over 4 feet in the air and do splits. And not a single American even knows it exists. It was at the Beijing show. It's there. It's working. And no one even knows that it literally can jump in the air 4 feet and do a 360. And not a single Westerner I've ever met even knows it exists.
When we think about the robots, obviously we're talking about the fighting robots. Next week we got really cool fights happening between gamers and fighters that we talked about. But, I think a lot of people also think of robotics world in like, different jobs that it can do and tasks that it can do.
Mm-hmm.
With a lot of these manual jobs, the overheating seems like that's going to be the real question is that, can a robot build a house or fix a roof and stuff like that? Maybe the technology would be there, but can it like stay 6 hours, 8 hours on a roof building a roof?
I mean, I would say the even bigger issue for outdoors, these aren't even remotely water resistant. I mean, I could literally shoot it with the squirt gun and it'd die instantly. Like there's exposed, circuit boards and all this. It's like not even remotely close to water resistant. So any of the outdoor use cases are complete horseshit for now.
Got it.
I mean, that would change, right?
Yeah.
But
for everybody that's scared of these things, just invest in Super Soaker.
Dude, I'm telling you, blue collar is going to be completely fucking fine. It's so the current issue with LLMs and why it's been so scary for like white collar jobs is that like a lawyer costs like $500 an hour, right? And you can just feed all these questions that you would ask a lawyer into an LLM that's only $10 an hour. So there's a value proposition how not only the efficiency of it, but how much money you're saving.
Yeah.
The issue with humanoid robots and what people call physical AI, and going back to like why some of the humanoid companies aren't being fully transparent, is the financial asymmetry doesn't make a lot of sense. So, right now the robots that can do these type of tasks with like complex hands and things like that, like the figure AI, these are $200,000 to $250,000 robots.
Wow.
And they're not telling people that's how much they cost, but that's generally, of course, the price is going to go down. But think of it, you're having a $200,000 robot replace the job of someone who gets paid $15 an hour. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
So people should not be as worried as they may be.
No, just don't. Years and years. These things are not even close to doing roofing. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. They're much closer to like killing someone than they are to doing roofing. Like I would be
Super Soakers, guys. Everyone needs a Super Soaker.
Yeah, you gotta get marbles. You throw it under their feet and they'll just freak out.
Well, that's actually interesting. Is like the different surfaces. We saw the video that we talked about where that robot was able to just bounce back up. But how does it do like on mountains, sand? I guess the beach would be terrifying for the robot.
Yeah. So, the crazy thing about humanoid robots is going back to like how the data works. So the way that you train the robot is you basically take motion capture data of how a person moves and say, hey, robot, when you're falling or in this type of environment, react like this, right? Effectively. When it comes to different terrain, there's a company called Skilled, which is probably the most ahead in this capacity. But basically what it does is it's a similar thing to what we do as humans, where before we walk forward, we survey what we're about to step towards and we go, how am I going to respond to this type of terrain? And it literally has a model that's trained for that specific type of terrain. So I'll give you an example. Like, okay, I'm looking down and I see ice, right? As a human, I look down and okay, I'm going to like walk like this now. Right? It's literally how we're training these robots, where they detect a type of terrain or obstacle, and then they run a specific model, or they have a model that has that specific terrain, And then after they visualize it, they go, okay, I remember what it was like to go through this type of terrain. I will walk like that.
Got it.
And so then they're, kind of like walking like this. They're adjusting for the fact they could be slipping. So they're adjusting their ankles and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, the crazy shit about humanoids and why they're so going to, like, a lot of people give shit about the humanoid form factor, but the reason they're going to win is just because they're going to be a person, but much better.
Yeah.
Eventually, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But, going back to the financial asymmetry behind, like, blue collar jobs,
Don't worry about it.
don't worry about it. All the engineers are going to be completely out of work way before we have to worry about like roofing or anything like that.
Cool. Blue collar safe.
Blue collar safe.
Next weekend, there's gonna be a really cool event. What made you think of this? This sounds like a really awesome thing that everyone can actually attend because it's gonna be live in San Francisco. People can actually come and watch it. This is gonna be the first ever VR MMA battle between robots where we take real UFC fighter and gamer.
Yep.
What made you come up with this? Where did it all start? And what can people expect?
Well, so, I've been a huge gamer my entire life, but I've always been kind of like limited by the fact that, like, if you think of esports and like League of Legends and Dota and stuff like that, they're fun if you know what the fuck is happening, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you don't know what is happening and you like brought a League of Legends championship to like a boomer, they'd be like, "What the fuck is this, man? I'm not gonna watch this."
Yeah, the same problem with jiu-jitsu.
Well, there you go. Like, so the a big part of what I've worked on in my tech career is making like dorky stuff cool. And a big part of why we can make this so cool is the context window is very small, in the sense that the reason UFC and MMA is still such a big deal, even though, it's like a very prehistoric thing to like beat the shit out of each other, it's because anybody can understand what's happening. Like a 6-year-old, a 90-year-old will look at an MMA fight and be like, oh, that could hurt. Oh, like I understand what's happening, right? The challenge with esports has always been, it's a small subset of the people who actually care about the game already. So what I saw with this was this could be the first time that we kind of merge those two worlds, which is a very simple context window of like, oh, punch goes here and that breaks stuff and like anybody can understand what's happening, but have that kind of like esports and gamer element to where you don't necessarily have to be a fighter to control it. And now there's game elements that you could potentially incorporate into it. Like, for example, I'm fighting the other robot. I know that the leg actuator is going to burn out if it does this one move over and over again. Let me tease that guy, make him do the kick over and over again. Leg actuator burns out and he falls over, right? A gamer would know that. But the UFC fighter is going to be like, oh, I'm going to fucking nail that guy, right? So then you're going to get these kind of potentially like two entirely different, thought processes on how to beat the other player.
Really exciting.
So
I'm looking forward to it. We got the robot here today, and we have a real fighter here today. So we got Brandon LaRocco. He's a Bellator veteran, and he's one of our home gyms athletes. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah, let's do it.
Guys, I want to thank you guys for coming out. The kids loved it. We loved it. This was really cool to see Rambot in person. If you guys want to see it, it's going to be live September 26th. Rek.tv. You can get your tickets. You can watch the Fighting Robots. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Go.